I'd like to call this meeting of the Clay County Commission to order. We will begin with our invocation. Administrator, when you are prepared, please proceed.
Please join us in an attitude of prayer. God in heaven, thank you for this opportunity to come together and work together. We ask for inspiration and insight, direction and guidance, and peace and harmony. May we accomplish great things this day, and may we display an attitude of cooperation and respect. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte.
Here.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Here.
And Commissioner Thompson.
With that, we will move to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion for approval of this afternoon's agenda?
Commissioner, I move that we approve the agenda as printed.
Motion's been made for the approval of the agenda. Discussion, seeing none, you are recognized to close.
Close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter.
Yes.
Commissioner Nolte.
Yes. Brings us to meeting schedule. Administrator?
Yes, the next meeting of the commission will be Wednesday, September 28th at 6 p.m. here in the chambers.
Thank you. There are no honorary resolutions, there are no discussion items, there are no public hearings, and there is nothing under our consent agenda, so that will move us to regular session. As we seem to have a number of people here who may want to testify, I would just like to remind those who would like to be heard by the commission, please go to the podium. There is a light at the base of the microphone. Please make sure that is green. Speak clearly into the microphone and make sure and state your name so that we have that for the audio record. With that, Administrator, we will go to 2022-314.
Resolution 2022-314 is the consideration of the final plat for the Eastern Estates Subdivision, and Planning and Zoning Manager Jones will present the information.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So this is the final plat for Eastern Estates. We've got it pulled up on the screen. It's outlined in yellow. It's currently 33.75 acres. It exists as Lot 8 and 9 of Burton Estates. It was rezoned in April of this year by the County Commission to RU40, so this is the second time it's been in front of the County Commission, and it's located off Northeastern Avenue. You can see the proposed plat up on the screen now. It's for 19 lots that range in size from 0.92 to 1.22 acres. There is a large 11-acre lot that has the existing house on it, and it is to be connected to the private sewer system to the subdivision to the north. There were no substantial changes from the preliminary plat to the final plat. Here you can see the outside surrounding area that we also shared with the preliminary plat. Anytime we hear a final plat, basically the Land Development Code says it needs to be in compliance with the preliminary plat. The developer can't add additional lots, make the lots smaller, do things like that. The Planning and Zoning Commission determined this was consistent with the preliminary plat, and staff believes it is as well. The process, as I stated, this has been in front of the County Commission twice. The next step would be to approve the final plat. At that point, the developer starts to install the infrastructure. When that infrastructure is installed, all the outside agencies inspect it and approve it. At that point, once it's approved, the developer can record that final plat. That's when they can start selling lots. And at that point, we also require a letter of credit because there's a 2-year maintenance period for that infrastructure where the developer is responsible for the maintenance, including snow removal on the new roads. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a meeting with this case. We did receive a letter from an adjacent property owner asking the commission to add a condition that deals with the landscape buffering in between the proposed development and the lot to the west. We discussed that during the first case as well. The developer does have a landscaping plan that will be required to be installed as part of this development if this development is approved, but the adjacent property owner wants additional plantings, larger trees. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard that discussion, but did not adopt that extra condition. The Planning and Zoning Commission made no changes to the conditions, and they voted 6-0 to recommend approval. A couple of those conditions include that the HOA is responsible for the stormwater infrastructure, and staff did add that last condition right here. As part of that maintenance or that landscaping that the developer is going to be required to install, if any of those trees or shrubs die, we put a condition that they would have to be replaced within 90 days within that 2-year maintenance period, not for the duration of that landscaping. So as I stated, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 6-0 to approve. Staff would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have, and the applicant is present as well.
Questions or discussion?
None at this time, thanks.
Is the applicant present, and would they like to say a few words?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Melissa Van Crum with Rouse Fretz White Goss Law Firm, 4510 Bellevue Avenue, Kansas City, Missouri. I'm here today representing the applicant, Gherkin Properties LLC, owned by Mr. Gherkin, who lives on the property. And also with us today is Art Aiken of AGC Engineers. We are requesting approval of the final plat for Eastern Estates. The final plat is strictly in conformance with the preliminary plat, as staff has stated. And as with the preliminary plat, the final plat is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code. We really appreciate the time of staff and other county and utility experts in review of the final plat to confirm its conformity with the preliminary plat and conditions of approval. We agree with the recommended conditions of approval, and we appreciate the recommended approval of staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission. We ask for your approval as well, and we're available to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, we seem to have no questions. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this matter? Seeing none. I'm going to recommend that we put this on for regular next time because Commissioner Thompson is not with us, and this does take place in her district, so I think I'd like to have her have the ability to ask questions and hear this as a freestanding issue.
Makes sense to me, yeah, thanks.
Very well, so 314 will appear on regular agenda for next week. Thank you. That brings us to 2022-315, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-315 is consideration of the vacation of a utility easement on lots 8 and 9 of Burton Estates. Planning and Zoning Manager Jones will explain this issue for you.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So this is a request to vacate a utility easement. The Land Development Code has 4 criteria which must be met for any vacation of utility easements. Both staff and Planning and Zoning Commission believe these 4 criteria have been met. You can see this is the proposed plat. The reason it says lot 8 and 9 of Burton Estates, that's how the lots exist today. Once the plat is approved, then it becomes Eastern Estates. And the proposal is to vacate this area outlined in red. And basically, it was just a utility easement that was along the outside boundaries of the 2 lots. It's no longer needed because we have new utility easements on the outside of the smaller lots. So that's what this request is. All the outside agencies on the board sent comments to Planning and Zoning that they had no objections to this case, and Planning and Zoning voted to approve. It was a 6-0 vote with the one condition, which is that we record the resolution if this is approved. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
No questions, thanks.
Would the applicant like to comment? Very well. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on 2022-315? Seeing none. I mean, I'm kind of inclined to put this on regular also, but really it's such a sort of, easy thing to do. I think we can go ahead and put this on consent, and then if Commissioner Thompson wants to have further discussion, it's easy enough to.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all the potentially impacted utilities, have signed off, so I'm perfectly good with it. Okay. Consent, thanks.
So 315 will be on consent for our next meeting. That brings us to 2022-316.
And that'll be marked approved.
Oh, excuse me, yes, of course. It wouldn't be a regular meeting if I didn't forget to mention that, would it?
I know you're just testing me.
That brings us to 316, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-316 is consideration of the final plat for the Eagle View subdivision. Planner Spies will be here and present information to the commission.
Shane Spies, Clay County Planner. This is the proposed subdivision of Eagle View. Currently, the property is approximately 46 acres, zoned residential ranchhead or R5 zoning. This property is located at the southwest corner, northeast 124th Street and A Highway, and there is currently an existing home on the property. The proposed subdivision is to divide the 46 acres into 8 lots. The proposed lots range from 5 to 10 acres. A cul-de-sac will be extended from 125th Street to access the 4 of the proposed lots, and there is roughly 12 out of the 46 acres that are included in a preservation easement here. Eagle View, again, this is one similar to the previous case that that the commission has heard. So right now what we're doing is going through the final step or final plat for that. This is the surrounding area. As you can see here, I mean, this is what the layout's going to look like. It actually is consistent or really exceeds the surrounding area in terms of lot sizes. And this over here is North Brook Farm, something that was recently brought through to the commission. That's going through kind of a similar process as this is doing. And this is a highway right through here. Staff and Planning and Zoning Commission believes that the final plat is consistent with the approved preliminary plat and that it meets the 5 approval criteria. If the commission approves this, the proposed subdivision, the following process is the same as the case before. Includes the developer installing infrastructure, the agencies inspect and approve infrastructure. Once approved, the developer can record final plat and start selling lots. We had no comments from the public. The developer did agree to add a berm to mitigate stormwater runoff to the neighbor to the west. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval with 16 conditions with a 6-0 vote. The conditions include changes to recording copies of the plat, and the HOA is responsible for the stormwater infrastructure. I will note that the conditions from the preliminary plat are similar to the final plat, despite the removal of one condition, since that has already been met prior to this. I'd be happy to answer any question the commissioners might have, and the applicant is present.
Questions? Thanks.
Thank you. If the applicant is present and would like to comment?
Good afternoon. Steve Warder, 6127 Northwest Pine Ridge Circle, Parkville, Missouri. Engineer on the project. We're okay with the conditions and just here to answer any questions.
Thanks. No questions for me. Thank you.
Very good. Is there anyone else here who would like to comment on 2022-316? Once again, as the previous on 314, I would like to go ahead and put this on regular so that Commissioner Thompson has the opportunity to review them in an open manner. So that's going to work.
Works for me. Thanks.
Very good. So 2022-316 will be on regular for next week's agenda. That brings us to two companion issues, 2022-317 and 2022-318. Is that right? Kind of threw me there because the one is part of the other and didn't have a bullet point to it. So please proceed.
Resolution 2022-317 and Resolution 2022-318 are companion resolutions regarding the rezoning and preliminary plat for the Willow Ranch subdivision. And Planner Spies is here to provide information about the project.
Please proceed.
Shane Spies, the Clay County Planner. This is a proposed subdivision called Willow Ranch. Willow Ranch, currently, the property is currently 45 acres. It's unplatted and zone agricultural and has an existing a single-family home on it. The proposal is to subdivide the 45 acres into 4 lots total. Lots 1, 2, and 4 will be zoned residential ranchette since it's between that 5 and 10 acre mark. Lot 3 will remain zoned agricultural since it's above the 20 acre minimum. This is like the previous case. They plan to stub a cul-de-sac there at the corner of 100, right here, 174th and Eldridge. The proposed subdivision falls under the rural low density tier of the 2008 comprehensive plan. The comp plan allows for 1 dwelling unit per 20 acres or a subdivision of 5 acres as long as as long as there's a percentage of land that is preserved in an agricultural land preservation. Lots 1, 2, and 4 all have the agricultural land preservation. And since lot 3 is above the 20 acre mark, it does not need one. So this is some of the surrounding areas here. You can see some other neighborhoods. You have the Eldridge Farms here, Landmark East, and Henson Acres. The Eldridge Farms, their lots are around 3 acres apiece. Landmark East is the same, roughly 3 acres per lot, and the Henson Acres to the west is roughly 5 acres per lot. The proposed subdivision lot sizes are consistent or exceeds the neighboring subdivision lot sizes. This is our standard rezoning criteria. Each review and decision-making body should consider this, and it was attached with the transmittal. The applicant has received all outside agency approval, and the point of that is to be sure that we are creating buildable lots. I jumped ahead on that, apologize. So this is typically what the process looks like. You know, this is going to be pretty much the first step, similar to what we did with the previous cases. So we're going through that rezoning and preliminary plat. So you guys will see this case again. And again, like I said, received all the outside agency review. There was concern on this one from adjacent property owners regarding stormwater. As staff, we'll work with the developer and adjacent property owners to mitigate the stormwater concerns. Planning and Zoning Commission voted 6-0 to approve with 12 conditions. Some of the conditions include changes to the recording copies of the plat, that the pond shall be inspected by NRCS or a licensed engineer before the recording of the final plat with any suggested repairs completed, and that the HOA shall be responsible for maintenance and replacement of stormwater infrastructure. I would be happy to answer any questions commissioners might have, and the applicant is present.
Thank you. Am I right that the property owner, the developer met with the adjacent property owners and the HOA being responsible for the replacement of stormwater infrastructure? Was that what the agreement they came to?
So that is a pretty traditional thing we put in these, that the HOA is going to be responsible for the stormwater. There was discussion with the one of the developers and the adjacent property owners at the meeting, and they essentially put in preliminary talks on how they plan on mitigating that stormwater.
Okay. I guess what I was curious about was if they had come to some agreement on a bullet point 2 on the top of that.
And if you don't mind, Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So we thought it would be best to make sure that this would be approved before they had those detailed discussions, because it's probably going to involve adding some stormwater preservation areas, things like that, which we can present to the County Commission with the final plat So we thought we'd see if this process would go through, then have those discussions and present that when we come back the second time.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions?
No questions, thank you.
If the property owner or developer is here, or applicant, I should say, if they'd like to make comment?
Good afternoon again. Steve Warger, 6127 Northwest Pine Ridge Circle, Parkville, Missouri. We are in favor of the conditions. We know there's the stormwater concerns, and like Mr. Jones said, we'd like to make sure that the plat was going to go through as laid out, and we will come up, much like we did in Eagle View. We put some berms there, we put some other things. We'll work with the adjacent property owners to come up with a viable solution to what's going on.
Very good, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to comment on 2022-318? Seeing none, as before, we will put this on regular so that Commissioner Thompson has the opportunity to fully hear all that we've had. That brings us to 2022-322, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-322 is consideration of approving a contract between Clay County and the Missouri Department of Agriculture. This is for a grant for remonument corners in the county, and Planning and Zoning Manager Jones is here to explain the project.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So this is a cost share program to remonument the section and quarter section corners of the original United States Public Land Survey. The state will reimburse the county $350 per qualified corner, and they will also give the county the supplies to mark the corners. The county will be responsible for the additional cost charged by the surveyor. So we are not requesting any additional funds to do this. I believe we can make this work within our current budget. We've committed to 8 corners for this round. My goal would be to do a few corners every year as we can. The reasoning there is I think this would be very helpful as Clay County continues to develop, to give surveyors a good starting point as we continue to do these surveys throughout the county. So I think it would be beneficial to the surveyors and to Clay County property owners as well. And with that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Questions?
Just very briefly, is this the state program, is it a new cost share program?
I believe so. This is the first time I've heard about it.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to comment on 2022-322? As it's just accepting money to be doing something with the monuments that Mr. Jones had referred to, I think consent would work on this. So 2022-322 will be on consent for our next meeting. That brings us to, and this is the first in a number of issues involving ARPA funding. Administrator, if we could start with 2022-302 and work through that, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. With your indulgence, I'd like to group the next 11 action items for the board's consideration. As Commissioner Nolte indicated, all of these individual items have to deal with the allocation of ARPA funding to our community partners. So with that, I'll go through and introduce the 11 items, and then we'll have further information for you. So Resolution 2022-302 is consideration of approving ARPA funding for the Clay County Senior Services in the amount of $81,740. Resolution 2022-303 is consideration of approving ARPA funding for the Liberty Community Chorus in the amount of $10,000. Resolution 2022-304 is consideration of ARPA funding for Liberty Hospital Foundation in the amount of $65,000. Resolution 2022-305 is consideration of ARPA funding for Northland Healthcare Access in the amount of $20,000. Resolution 2022-306 is consideration of ARPA funding for Northland Shepherd Center in the amount of $75,000. Resolution 2022-307 is consideration of ARPA funding for the Northland Therapeutic Riding Center in the amount of $149,169. Resolution 2022-308 is consideration of ARPA funding for Water Supply District Number 3 in the amount of $71,310.44. Resolution 2022-309 is consideration of ARPA funding for the Samuel Rogers Health Center in the amount of $138,128. Resolution 2022-310 is approving ARPA funding for Water Supply District Number 6 in the amount of $180,000. Resolution 2022-311 is a request for Water Supply District Number 8 for ARPA funding in the amount of $31,000. And last but certainly not least, Resolution 2022-312 is consideration of ARPA funding for the City of Missouri City in the amount of $80,000. County Auditor Herbert is here to also share information about the project, and I believe we also have guests in the audience from some of the agencies here too this evening.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. So please, as the chair, I think what I'll do to add to what the administrator introduced there is go through very briefly the eligibility and where the expenditures will come from as far as our budget, and then I'll make myself available for any questions, and we can let our guests come up in that same order. I think would be a good plan. So without further ado, I guess I'll dive right in. So Resolution 2022-302, as Administrator mentioned, is for senior services. This request really consists of two categories of eligibility essentially under the rescue plan. It's broken up into $63,566 really in the COVID response public health category. Essentially what senior services did, we're reimbursing them. It deals with transportation to vaccines, as well as some remote work capability and as well as behavioral health programming. And then they also assisted different other agencies as well in the amount of $1,874 for some more of the economic recovery type programs that are eligible under the American Rescue Plan Act, including the City of Liberty. Already mentioned the behavioral health with Tri-County Mental Health, Good Samaritan in Excelsior Springs for those healthcare items, and then Meals on Wheels programs in Liberty, Kearney, Smithville, and Northland Shepherd Center. So that was Clay County Senior Services. Would you like me to pause after each one or just wait until the end?
How would you like to proceed?
I'm good with continuing to move, yeah.
Okay, so we'll go, so the idea is we'll go ahead and get your take on each one of these, then we'll go back to the beginning of the list and ask for those applicants or those interested parties to participate. You know what? Let's just go ahead, because that was fresh on our mind. Let's have the applicant come forward if that's okay. That way we have the details. So is there anyone who would like to speak on 2022-302? Very good. That brings us to the next one. Please just continue.
Certainly. So Resolution 2022-303 is, as the Administrator mentioned, American Rescue Plan Act request to the Liberty Community Course in the amount of $10,000. The eligibility for this one is essentially revenue loss for this nonprofit. As the explanation detailed in your packet, they basically couldn't hold a couple concerts and do a fundraising event because COVID canceled their events. This is a specific eligible category within the American Rescue Plan Act for nonprofits that face a reduction in revenues during COVID. I've outlined that in the request for commission action. That's all I have for that one.
Is there anyone wishing to speak on 303? Seeing none, please proceed.
2022-304 is to the Liberty Hospital Foundation in the amount of $65,000. This request is essentially for their patient assistance program, and the eligibility here is dealing with those disproportionately and also other impacted populations of low to moderate income and providing health care services to those individuals. And just as a reminder, what that qualification is that we'll be verifying and checking is essentially 40% area median income to 65% area median income is that low to moderate, and 185% poverty level to 300% poverty level, low to moderate. So those are the guidelines there.
Anybody wishing to speak on 304? Seeing none.
Next, you have Resolution 2022-305, the Northland Healthcare Access in the amount of $20,000. This is a similar eligibility of healthcare services to those low to moderate income populations. The particular program for Northland Healthcare Access is essentially called their CARE program, Care Coordinators and Healthy Pregnancies Program. I did believe I saw the Executive Director, Ms. Karen Dolt, here. If there are any other comments.
Good afternoon. Karen Dolt, CEO of Northland Healthcare Access. And we just thank you for your consideration in this funding. We value you as a partner. We've worked with you through many different programs, and we value our partnership that we help the residents of Clay County. If you have any questions, it basically is for all of our programs around behavior health, prenatal, Northland Care Plus, around care coordination.
Questions or comments?
No questions, just brief comment, which is, I said before, but it's wonderful to get to partner with y'all again, and, I'm always very inspired by the work that you and the organization do, so thank you.
Thank you.
We certainly appreciate you being here and giving us the chance to once more commend you on your good work.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else wishing to comment on 305? Seeing none, please proceed.
All right, so Resolution 2022-306 is to the Northland Shepherd Center in the amount of $75,000. This is again in that economic recovery category and assistance to those impacted populations. The specific category in this case is services for food as well as internet access for senior citizens. So it's really split into two main requests. It's their food pantry, and then their technology center is essentially what this project is.
I notice also there are investments in water, sewer, and broadband, so that's certainly something that would fall into that category. Is there anyone here to speak on 306?
Good afternoon. Terry Tipton, Northland Shepherd Center. I'm acting as the interim executive director. We certainly appreciate you considering this request from the Northland Shepherd Center.
Well, we appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you. Any questions?
Is there anyone else wishing to comment on 306? Seeing none, please proceed.
Okay, and Resolution 2022-307 is the Northland Therapeutic Writing Center. The eligible category for this in the amount of $149,169 is the behavioral health category. There's also a healthcare aspect to it as far as physical therapy, but we decided for simplified reporting purposes to look at behavioral health. You'll note that this is lower than the original request. We chose those items that were more of the long-term investment per the commission criteria after working with staff and the administrator and auditor having a meeting with the organization. So that's it, and if there's a representative, we can.
Okay. Please come forward.
Hi, Shani Othick, Executive Director for Northland Therapeutic Writing Center. Thank you for your consideration of this. We have been in business for 22 years, and with this funding, it will make it possible for us to operate year-round. For 22 years, we've only been able to operate for 8 months out of the year, which causes our clients to lose any type of progress that they've made throughout the year, and an improvement in their physical and mental health. So we greatly appreciate you guys taking this into consideration.
Thank you. We appreciate your work and the ability for you to go 12 months.
Yes, not 24 hours, please.
Yeah, not 24 hours. I was kind of
don't
giving
have
you an
the
extra
energy.
assignment. But no, I'm quite aware through personal experience that those who have, those clients who use service do not do as well if there's an interruption in their routine. So keeping their routine consistent around the year certainly enhances the progress that they're able to make, if I'm reading that correctly.
Correct, 1,000%.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to comment on 307? Seeing none, that brings, please proceed.
Yes, 2022-308 is for the Public Water Supply District Number 3 of Clay County in the amount of $71,310.44. This is a water and sewer infrastructure category under the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund eligibility. What's eligible under that act is also eligible under the rescue plan. And this one is a transmission and distribution project. They outlined essentially 4 projects that they're seeking reimbursement, but it also includes some security measures on those water mains and their systems and their plant. So that's essentially all I have on that.
Questions? Is there anyone here wishing to speak on 308?
Good afternoon. Linda Penrod, Vice President of PWSD Number 3 of Clay County. Thank you for your consideration. Mr. Hurlbert did a great job of presenting the 4 projects that we are requesting partnership with Clay County and the use of ARPA funds. As we've all been seeing in the news, water infrastructure is very, very important, especially when you suddenly don't have it. So these funds will allow us to continue to be proactive in fixing problems before they become huge crises. So thank you for your time and consideration. I'm available for any questions if you have any now or later.
No questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
And we certainly appreciate your work on the it's an important infrastructure issue. Anyone else wishing to comment on 308? Seeing none, please proceed.
So 2022-309 is the Samuel U. Rogers Health Center in the amount of $138,128. It is a capital investment, basically in 2 main categories, also in that health services to impacted populations, low and moderate income, $117,128 for renovations to their dental exam rooms at the Clay County Health Center, and $21,000 for 2 Retina View 700 imagers. And so that's essentially what I have there. I believe that there are representatives from the center.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Bob Tice. I'm the CEO of Samuel U. Rogers Health Center. And I have with me,
Hi, I'm Dr. Amanda Whiting, the Chief Dental Officer for Samuel U. Rogers.
just talk about the age of the equipment.
So we are requesting $117,000 to replace aging equipment at our Clay County location. Currently, the equipment up there is over 20 years old. The COVID pandemic really has caused an increase in need in our services, and the loss of dental services due to aging equipment would be devastating to the community we serve. And I'm just here to help answer any questions and say thank you very much for your consideration.
Okay.
The other amount is for Retina View. It helps helps us do diabetic eye exams. And in the facilities where we've placed these, the compliance rate has more than doubled. So we've gone from 25 to more than 50% for diabetic eye exams. And so that helps us get care for our patients so they can not go blind. So thank you for your consideration for these grants for capital, and we appreciate everything you do. And we have lovely partners in the room, so thank you very much.
No questions, just thanks for being here and for the work that y'all do.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to comment on 309? Seeing none, please proceed.
Yes, so Resolution 2022-310 is Obligation Rescue Plan, $180,000 to the Public Water Supply District Number 6. And this one is essentially, again, Drinking Water State Revolving Fund eligibility under the American Rescue Plan Act. And essentially what this project is to replace 550 water meters throughout the district because there's a water loss issue, and being able to have more accurate readings. So that's the explanation there, and if there are representatives from that district.
Hello, Jake Dorn with Public Water System Number 6. I just wanted to say thank you for consideration, and to the office for leading us through the application. This will definitely help us be able to stay on top of our existing assets, aging assets, and be able to collect the funding that we need in order to continue that work. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to field those. Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to comment on 310? Seeing none, please proceed.
Yes, so Resolution 2022-311 is ARPA obligation up to $31,000 to the Public Water Supply District Number 8, Plat County. There are a number of water supply districts in Clay County that voters in Clay County vote for their boards. 2 that overlap for Platte County, 2 that overlap for Ray County, 2 that overlap for Clay County. So it does seem strange that it's a Platte County here in Clay County. But the request is essentially 1% of their contemplated work of $3.1 million, and that's how we get to $31,000. Seeking matching funds as they try and pull down state dollars as well as assistance from Platte County itself. But we looked at the paperwork, and what they are really trying to do is a bunch of improvements to their water lines, and there is at least $31,000 for that. My office would review those expenditures to see that the work was done in Clay County or serving Clay County households along that border on the west. And as I outlined in the submittal there, some 2,000 acres of the 21,000 acres are within Clay County, and they are headquartered in Smithville and serve the Smithville School District. So that is essentially some more information I have there. I don't know if a representative is here from that water district.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Fisher. I'm the president of the Public Water Supply District Number 8, and we would surely greatly appreciate your consideration of this. Introduce.
I am Ralph Stubbs. I'm the Vice President of Plat Water System Number 8, and we do appreciate you all considering us. We have a very high water loss, so.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Pease. I'm the district clerk. Again, I want to thank Victor and Diana for helping with the process. It was a whim that I got into the application process. What I wanted to know was, you guys want to know more about the projects we're attempting to do if we get the federal grant money next month? So we...
Yeah, please, go forward with that. And would the money we're providing, if you're not successful in the grant, how would that, what would happen then?
Well, I would say, considering what projects we need done, I don't know that $31,000 is going to help a lot in that, considering the way our engineer reports go. So I would say it would be a contingency. We find out October 12th if we get the $3.1 million through the state.
But go ahead and give us an idea of
Okay.
what you contemplate.
So we have aging infrastructure. This water district was started in 1968. It became an actual water district in 72. We have lots of roads that still have 1972 pipe in them. The blue glue is cracking into rock, and water's not coming up. It's taking years. That's one thing. That's our biggest thing, is we have like 3 or 4 roads that we're going to be replacing. We're replacing 36,000 feet of old lines. Those are 2.5 inch, 3.5 inch. County Line Road, which actually serves Clay County residents, we cannot add any new users. Our lines are maxed out. So, and if anybody buys property, they can't get water right now. We've got to upgrade to a 6-inch pipe and an 8-inch pipe to be able to serve more customers. There is one street, Malcolm Lake Road, does not have water right now. We were proposing to lay 24,000 feet of line up there. Everybody up there is on wells. Every home that I could get to say yes in Platte County that had wells, E. coli and nitrates were back in the well testing that we did through the state lab in Missouri. So yes, we're trying to improve the infrastructure, but we're also trying to give reliable water to, it would be more than just the Platte County. That goes all the way to Clinton County, because we're 3 counties in our district. So we're trying to fix a little bit of everything. We still have more projects to do, but this will put us in the right step. Our water loss is huge. Last year, we lost about $55,000. This year, we've already lost $42,000. We lost $7,500 last month. It was 1.5 million gallons, and we only have 427 users. So our infrastructure is just way beyond the stable life. It needs to come out. We're not making any money. We're not sustaining anything. So if we had any emergency happen, With the amount of money we're spending on water loss a month, we can't even afford to have an emergency. So that's why we're asking for the 1%. It was a point with the ARPA grant, it's a point system. The demographics goes for the county-wide, not for our 1,100 residents. So we have to go by Plat County's median household income, unemployment rate, the whole thing. And we're just a small percentage of 180,000 people in a county. So this would help us get 2 points, and that just gets us up in the level to maybe get the ARPA grant for it.
Questions?
Just thanks for the information. Thank you.
No, we appreciate that because it sounds like not only is it going to improve your ability to not lose water and to upgrade your system, but am I correct that it would also allow you to be able to then, should you achieve all this, expand your customer base?
Yes, yeah.
And we always want to hear about growth in the county, so that's certainly
Right.
something. And let us kind of keep us in the loop, be interested in knowing if there's anything we could do to help achieve the federal grant beyond this, assuming this passes, which I suspect it will.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments on 311? Seeing none.
So the last one of this set is Resolution 2022-312. It is a ARPA requesting amount of $80,000 to Missouri City. And that request is also eligible under the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. It deals with fixing a water main underneath 210 Highway. And I believe I saw representatives from the city here. Yep.
Good afternoon, Barry Moore, Mayor of Missouri City. I wanted to thank you for considering our application for this project. Back in 1971, Modoc came through and bought the right-of-ways for the new 210 project highway there. And at that time, they told the city they had to relocate the water main, the main water main that comes into town, and that was at the original grade. Well, then they came and did the project and dumped about 24 foot of dirt on top of that and built the road, so our water line is inaccessible, so we can't maintain it, and so we're having, one of these days it's going to break because it's a 6-inch PVC glued pipe, so it's way out of dated and not even up to standard. So we want to thank you for considering this project so that we can upgrade this to make it safe, because sooner or later it's going to break and probably a road underneath 210, and one of these days there's going to be a big bump or dip.
Well, thank you very much. If I recall correctly, I think you visited us before when we were starting this process, so I certainly appreciate you being here and keeping us apprised on what's going on in Missouri City.
Yes, thank you for considering our project.
Oh, yeah, just good to see you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm glad that we're going to be able to help with the project.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good.
Anyone else wishing to comment on 312? Very well. Seeing none. We are talking about considerable money here, but I think we could group them together, just bundle them together, and then hear them on regular next time. That would involve just going through and reading them, and that would give Commissioner Thompson the ability to weigh in. But I would be open to consent if you wanted to do that. I could go either way, really.
Yeah, I'm open to either as well, and certainly grouping them together makes sense the way we've done today. So whichever you prefer, I'm good with.
Mr. Counselor, do you have any thoughts on whether we put these on consent? Because we are expending money here, and it's a considerable amount, but they all seem to be pretty straightforward, so I want to get your thoughts.
Being on consent, I think they have been extremely, there's been a lot of vetting to all of these by the auditor's office, who's done a fantastic job with all of these, and certainly they all sound like worthwhile projects, so it would not give me heartburn to put them on consent if that was the will of the commission.
Okay, I think let's go ahead and put it on consent then. That way we can handle these in a more efficient manner and kind of go from there. So let me go ahead and read this out. 302, 303, 304, 305, 306, 307, 308, 309, 310, 311, and 312 would appear on consent for our next meeting. Very well. That brings us to 2022 Ordinance 30.
2022 Ordinance 30 is consideration of reappropriation and revising the existing budget regarding allocation of American Rescue Plan funds. County Auditor Herbert is here to explain the request.
Please proceed.
Yeah, so Commissioners, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor, Ordinance 30, 2022 Ordinance 30 is a reappropriation of $153,900 of our unobligated rescue plan money. Remember, I came to you last time and said there was essentially $300,000 remaining that had been unobligated. And so what we're doing is reappropriating that to the COVID response line to be able to reimburse our health insurance fund, 315, for claims that the county has paid for that were due to COVID. And so this is really two parts. It's both the budget reappropriation and the authorization for that reimbursement. It looks like it's been combined. And so reappropriate the budget, and then you can see in the detail the claims from the last time we came to you with the same expense is from October 14th of 2021 to September 8th of this year in the amount of $153,900. We did this last year from the beginning of the eligibility period for the rescue plan on March 3rd, 2021 to October 13th last year, and that was a little bit higher with Resolution 2021-306 of $168,387. So we're essentially doing the same thing, but for the period since we last reimbursed it. And so what this does is it will basically go back to our health insurance fund and helps support that fund's financial position, because we are partially self-insured. So happy to answer any questions.
No questions, thanks.
So essentially, we're just moving money within funds.
Reimbursing ourselves, yep.
Okay. Is there anyone who would care to comment on 2022 Ordinance 30? Since this is just a transfer of funds, consent?
Yeah, I'm good with consent.
Okay.
Sure.
Let me know if I'm getting a little bit too carried away with our consent items here, because it seems like a reasonable thing to do, but there we are. So 2022 Ordinance 30 would be consent. That brings us to 2022-294.
Yes, Commission, with your indulgence, I'd like to introduce the next 5 items and group them together for the Commission. These are grants for the Sheriff's Office. So I'll start with Resolution 2022-294 is consideration of a grant with a Highway Safety and Traffic Division with the state of Missouri for a dedicated impaired driving enforcement grant in the amount of $257,164. Resolution 2022-295 is consideration of a grant with the Highway Department for a DWI saturation enforcement grant in the amount of $8,750. Resolution 2022-296 is consideration of a grant with the Missouri Department of Transportation for a hazardous moving violation enforcement grant in the amount of $13,250. Resolution 2022-297 is consideration of a grant with the Missouri Department of Transportation for an occupant protection enforcement grant in the amount of $9,000. And Resolution 2022-298 is consideration of a grant with the Highway Department for a youth alcohol enforcement grant in the amount of $6,000. And Captain Agadarian with the Sheriff's Department is here to talk about each of these grants.
Thank you. Please proceed.
All right. Good afternoon. Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office. Victor, you gave me a run for my money here. I don't know if he's still in here, but usually it's the Sheriff's Office with the lengthy presentations, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. So as County Administrator Wright explained, these are Modoc grants that we apply for and have been allowed to accept for many years. And the last 4 require no county match at all. So I'll go in order and kind of detail what each one is and what the county's obligation is to that grant. if that's acceptable to you.
Please proceed, yes.
Okay, very good. All right. The first grant, 2022-231, is the dedicated impaired driving grant that I presented to Commission last month. We presented a request to apply for this grant because it was going to require some different funding from the county than it had in the past. So this is our request to accept this grant money with a match from the county in the amount of $73,500, which will fund 25% of 4 deputies that are dedicated to DWI enforcement in Clay County. All right, so that's the first one. Any questions on that one?
No questions.
Okay. The second is 2022, hold on. 2022-295 is the DWI Saturation Enforcement Grant, and this is a grant that provides overtime money for deputies assigned to other divisions to go out and do DWI patrols in addition to their regular duties. So it's an additional layer of DWI protection on the roads. That is no county match. Grant award is $8,750. Resolution 2022-296 is the application for the hazardous moving violations enforcement. And this is, once again, a total grant award of $13,250 with no county match. This provides overtime for personnel assigned to other divisions to patrol for speeding, just various aggressive driving violations, and again, no county match in addition to other duties. 2022-297 is the Modoc grant for the occupant protection enforcement, which is $9,000 for enforcement of seatbelt or occupant protection on county roads. Again, this is an overtime for personnel assigned to other units, and no match from county, or yes, no match from the county. And finally, our last Modoc grant is 2022-298, and this is the grant acceptance for the Youth Alcohol Enforcement Program, which is, honestly, this is a great program. This is $6,000 in overtime funding for deputies to go out and work with typically some of our students from the North Kansas City School District to make sure that vendors are not selling alcohol to underage youth in our community. So no county match, just an award in the amount of $6,000. And so it's the Sheriff's Office request to Commission to approve our acceptance of these grant funds from Modoc.
Thank you. I'm trying to remember because the last one, 298, sounds familiar. Is this the one where they would check vendors to make sure that they would not sell to minors?
Correct.
Because I remember when I was in the legislature, we went through this. I was on public safety appropriations, and this was one of the programs that we were getting into, and we felt it was a very effective way to help make it more difficult for those who are not supposed to be buying alcohol to not do it. And obviously, you want to try to stop it at the vendor level if possible.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, this is a grant that we have not had as long as the other Modoc grants, but it's one that in recent years we have successfully applied for and been awarded funding from.
That was what I was kind of curious about, because it seemed as though that was falling mostly on the state, and I don't recall at that time local matches or anything like that, but that would not necessarily have come back in the early 2000s, I hate to say.
Yeah, correct, yes.
But certainly, I mean, they're all worthwhile programs, but that's one I at least have some, some experience with, I guess, even though it's been very long ago.
Yes.
Commissioner?
No real questions. I mean, I always wonderful to get these grant dollars in, and it sounds like some good overtime pay for our hardworking deputies, so that's good news, and good enforcement as well. One question, and this is a bit of a tangent, but I've noticed, just anecdotally, personally, a lot more people driving around without license plates And so I'm wondering, in terms of the enforcement of, and stepping up the enforcement on some of these provisions, hazardous driving, et cetera, has the sheriff's office noted that at all? I just wonder how they get away with it more than a day or two, you know?
I wonder some things too. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that right now, but I'm going to ask our traffic supervisor. He couldn't be here today, but I will absolutely ask him about the license plates.
Gotcha.
So no plates?
Yeah, just no plates at all. I find it to be a very bold choice, and I would think they would get pulled over a lot, but they seem to.
I don't know. That's
Gotcha.
an interesting question.
Just
for
curious.
sure.
Cool. Thanks.
Well, I certainly know with my luck I would be pulled over immediately. That's just the way the world works for me. By the way, I was just doing a quick little add-on. We're just short on all these grants of being a total of somewhere in the area of $300,000, just a bit short of that. Does that sound about right? Or am I adding them up wrong?
Well, yes, if you consider the portion that, yes, if you consider the portion that the county is responsible for, then absolutely it would be just shy of 300,000.
And the reason I say that is that, it's certainly appreciated that you folks work so hard to bring in that kind of, those kinds of resources in for the sheriff to be able to do his job so much more efficiently than he would be able to absent this funding. So certainly we appreciate the fact that you folks work so diligently over there on this.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else want to comment on those, I think it was 5 items? Yes, 5 items. Seeing none, I think we could pretty much put them all on consent.
I'm good with that. Yep.
Very good. So 94, 95, 96, 97, and 98, and 94 on consent for our next meeting. That brings us to 2022-299, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-299 is consideration of a co-located public safety answering point interlocal government agreement with the county, the city of Gladstone, and the city of Liberty. And Captain Agadarian is here to talk about this program.
Please proceed.
All right. Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office. So the public safety answering point is dispatch. Basically, that's our 911 call center, and this request is a request for consideration by the Commission for the Sheriff's Office or Clay County to enter into an agreement with the City of Gladstone and the City of Liberty to co-locate those dispatch centers, because currently each of those entities operates their own PSAP, which is the public safety answering point. Again, years and years of it, I just call it dispatch. So to locate those 3 separate dispatch call centers into one location, and part of the reason for that is, if you recall, the Sheriff's Office has recently made a move to convert our data to Central Square. Central Square is the computer-aided dispatch, or the CAD software that is used by all 3 of these PSAPs now, and the thought is that it is a better use of resources, a better use of space, and it is in the best interest of those agencies and the public to have all 3 agencies located in one place. So the City of Gladstone has graciously offered to supply the space. So they are in the process of renovating an area that would allow for consoles, equipment, computers, phones, services by all 3 of those agencies in one place. And essentially, we are asking Commission for permission to sign this MOU and to allow the Sheriff's Office to allocate and spend up to $150,000 of our use tax money for our portion of the renovation.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. So wordy. There was a lot there.
There is a bit. Commissioner?
No questions. Thanks.
This is something that I've been wanting to see happen for a very long time, as you're probably aware, ever since I was elected to this office. Co-location and hopefully eventually consolidation, I think, would bring a much higher efficiency to that particular part of responding to emergencies that citizens are calling about. And I think it's a great thing to be doing. There is legislation, enabling legislation on the books that would allow us to, at some point in the hopefully not too distant future, to even talk about doing consolidated dispatch, which I think is, for me, that's sort of the end game, or at least the the
Baby
intermarriage.
steps.
Intermediary end game.
Yes.
So I appreciate that. Anyone else wishing to comment on 299? Seeing none, we won't put this on regular, do you think? or-
I'm good with consent, yeah.
Good with consent? All right, let's go ahead and do the consent then. I don't have a big, I just felt like I was getting a little bit too carried away with my consent. Very good. That brings us to 2022-300. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-300 is consideration of amendment to the School Resource Deputy Program Agreement between the North Kansas City School District and Clay County. Captain Agadarian is here to talk about that amendment.
Please proceed.
Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office. Earlier this year, in June, the Commission approved the MOU between the Clay County Sheriff's Office and the North Kansas City School District. That agreement has been in place for years. This was just the renewal of the 12 deputies that the Sheriff's Office provides to provide safety and security in the schools in North Kansas City. Those are funded 6 positions at 80%, 6 positions at 90%. Additionally, I'm back today to ask for approval of the MOU with the Children's Services, like we did last year, to fully fund through the North Kansas City School District 4 positions with no county match. So this is the 4 deputies that are going to be assigned to the roving positions in the elementary schools, which now gives us coverage in the high schools, the middle schools, and 4 of the elementary schools with the ability to rove between them and be available for services at all of them.
So this would not require any expenditure for us? It
This
would
is
be
no
match.
expenditure, it's just an amendment to our current agreement with North Kansas City.
Very good. Commissioner Carpenter?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, anyone else wishing to comment on 2022-300? Are we okay with consent on this? Are you okay?
Good with consent?
Very good. 2022-300 will appear on consent at our next meeting. That brings us to 2022 Ordinance 29. Administrator?
2022 Ordinance 29 is consideration of reappropriation and revising the current budget of the county in the amount of $16,149. Captain Agadarian is here to talk about this request.
Please proceed.
Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office, and I'm looking for 100% consent if we can here. I'm very excited about this. It's never happened. All right, so each year the Sheriff's Office K-9 unit hosts a golf tournament to raise funding for the purchase of K-9s or the equipment and continuing training of those animals and their handlers. This year, the gifts and donations raised at the tournament exceeded the anticipated revenue, and so working with the auditor's office, I am placing this document in front of you today to ask that we decrease the revenue account line by $16,149 to reappropriate that to the expenditure line in that same dollar amount so that we can take care of some anticipated K-9-related needs before the end of this year.
No questions, thanks.
Well, I guess we'll keep your streak going. Is there anyone else who would like to comment before we go forward? Okay, very well. 2022 Ordinance 29 for consent?
Great.
You need to go out and buy a lottery ticket.
That has never happened. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. That brings us to 2022-293.
Resolution 2022-293 is consideration of approving the appointment of the fines, interests, and escrow funds of the Clay County from the period of September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2022 in the amount of $819,638.45. This request comes from Treasurer Nance. This is a typical annual process in which the county does, and I don't know if the treasurer's here,
I don't see him right off the top.
but I'm sure between the auditor and the clerk and myself, we can answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Auditor, if you'd like to make comment?
Victor Hulbert, Clay County Auditor. The administrator really covered it there. Treasurer Nance is at his annual treasurer training in Springfield, Missouri, but he did ask if you had any questions, I could answer them. But yeah, essentially it's by statute, it's just a school fund, a county school fund, and these fees, fines, and interest and then tax sale surplus essentially gets remitted to the schools. It's apportioned by their membership, and that's why it's three parties working together, treasurer, auditor, and clerk to make it happen on an annual basis. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
And this is really largely a function of existing state statute, so this is kind of a administrative, almost kind of an action on our part.
It's a housekeeping issue.
Gotcha. Questions?
No questions, thanks.
Very well. Anyone else wishing to comment on 293? Seeing none. Consent?
Agreed.
Very well. So 2022-239 will be on consent. That brings us to 2022-323. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-323 is consideration of the utilization of Arpa funding for electronic signature software Blue Link. IT Director Hsa is here to provide information to the Commission.
Good afternoon.
Please proceed.
Kevin Shaw, IT Director. 2022-323 is here in front of you so we can approve ARPA funding for the electronic signature software. This would provide ability for us to digitally e-sign, send, and manage our documents electronically.
Okay.
I'm here to answer any questions.
No questions. I'm thrilled that we're moving in this direction. I think it's going to benefit county operations across the board. As I recall, when we talked about this before, is the expense of this going to be higher in coming years, or is this just an initial cost? Remind me what we're expecting.
Right. This is basically a proof of concept to see how we can use it. I also believe that with the inventory of documents that we've compiled together, we feel like we could probably bring this number to a more manageable number. They believe that it would be higher. I believe that we can manage it ourselves better, especially as we move other softwares to electronic softwares or systems.
Gotcha. So, but the $10,000 estimated cost, like for next year and the year after, do you have a sense of how much we're looking at down the road?
It's per document. So they gave us a price of 3,500 envelopes. That's $10,000. I believe we could probably maintain that with managing the documents, how we present our documents. I believe a lot of our documents will be corrected with the next resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to comment on 323? I think I'd like to put this on regular agenda so that Commissioner Thompson has a chance to ask questions and to weigh in on that. So 2022-323 for regular next meeting. That brings us to 2022-326. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-326 is consideration of the utilization of ARPA funding for the accounting system conversion in the amount of $450,000. IT Director Hsa will present information on this.
Please proceed.
Kevin Shaw, IT Director. This resolution is to upgrade our current ERP system, our accounting system. We've been using Eden since 2020, actually 1999. So well over 20 years we've used this. It's well past overdue for an upgrade. There's three major reasons that we're looking for this upgrade. Number one, of course, is the discounts that we can use with this. But number two, also the data conversion ease would be easier with this conversion that we selected. And the future also with electronic purchase orders, the process would be improved. And I believe that would be a major thing, what we just discussed earlier.
So when was the last time we had an upgrade on this particular?
There's been small upgrades periodically, but it's essentially a 20th century software, and we're 20 years into the 21st century.
Right. So I mean, these have been
Since 99.
incremental, kind of, very small. So this would give us the opportunity to sort of leap forward into the 21st century,
Correct.
albeit
20 years
maybe
late.
22 years, a little bit tardy, but we're making it. We'll be there.
That's correct.
Okay, Commissioner?
No questions, thanks.
Like the last one, I think these are both, things that we should be doing, but I do want to give Commissioner Thompson the ability to ask her questions and to be fully informed. So I would recommend 2022-326 be on regular agenda.
Sure, thanks.
That brings us to 2022-292, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-292 is consideration of approving a revocable event license for the Julia Bergman Hope Foundation 12th Annual Julius Warriors 5K Run 1 Mile Walk in Smithville Lake. And Director Driscoll is here to present information about this event.
That is quite a mouthful. It's as bad as me with my twos some days. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mike Driscoll, Parks Director. We would ask for the approval for the revocable license for this event. It's the 12th annual event. This is just the second time that they would like to have it up at Smithville Lake. They liked it so much last year, they wish to return. They utilized the Little Plat Beach area to stage and then use the road within the park and the trail for their 5-mile or 5K run and 1 mile walk. They just asked for a few considerations in lieu of $6 entry fee per vehicle. They want to pay a flat fee of $750. Like I say, we'll just close a small portion of the road into the beach area from regular traffic, which at that time is not usually very much anyway. Other than that, just a permission to use an ATV or a golf cart for running supplies or emergencies on the trail or walk area. And other than that, place some pink ribbons for individuals who have battled cancer, and they would all be removed at the end of the event. Only action needed would be approve and sign this revocable license for our event.
Questions?
No questions, thank you.
Is anyone else wishing to comment on 292? Seeing none, I would recommend consent for 292. That brings us to, now I've got it on my mind, the two thing, 2022-301.
Resolution 2022-321 is consideration of a transfer within a fund. We are requesting to reallocate $15,000 for fuel purchases for resale at our lake. And Director Driscoll is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Mike Driscoll, Parks Director. We have been through this before, but higher than anticipated sales at the end of August and over Labor Day have once again forced us to ask for a transfer of funds within the 240 fund to cover purchase of gas for the marinas for the rest of the year. I heard one of our marina specialists said that Labor Day was the most money-wise we've ever actually occurred on one given weekend. And mostly that is because, of course, of the higher gas prices. But at any rate, the sales have been very strong for the end of the season, and we just need some more money to purchase some to get through the rest of the year.
Thank you. Well, it's good to hear that while it's, a result of the, the gas price inflation, it's good to hear that, people are utilizing our facilities out there and enjoying the lake on those weekends. Commissioner?
No questions, thanks.
Anyone else wishing to comment on 301? Seeing none, consent?
Agree.
Very well. 301 will appear on consent next week. That brings us to 2022.
Well, so I think that was 321, and now we'll be on 301.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just happened to look down and saw that
that's right.
was different. So, yes, please go to the next one.
Resolution 2022-301 is consideration of approving a term and supply contract with Heathwood Oil Company and Napa Auto Parts for motor oil. This comes to us as a county-wide Utilization, but Deputy County Administrator Walters will provide information about the process.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Commission. Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator for Clay County. This is a term and supply for engine oil, hydraulic oil, transmission oil for countywide equipment to be purchased through Heath Oil and at Napa. They were it's sent out for a lot of bids for other companies to come back. The only ones that came back were Napa and Heathwood, and so we're accepting those bids.
Okay. Questions?
No questions. Thanks.
Anyone else wishing to comment on 301? Seeing none. Consent sound good?
Consent works for me.
Very well. 301 will appear on consent. Brings us to page 3. People like Paul Harvey. That brings us to 2022-319, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-319 is consideration and approval of a lease agreement to purchase 4 Mack tandem dump trucks and sign the bill of sale and sign titles with Kansas State Bank. Deputy County Administrator Walters is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Commission. Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator for Clay County. Back in March of 21, we came in front of you to turn around and purchase 4 Mack trucks, trade for 4 used Internationals, and knowing that we were probably going to get them at the end of the year of 21. But the pandemic came in and turned around and kind of slowed the process down of getting those 4 Mack trucks that we brought in front of you. And now we're in September of 22, and now we've got our Mack trucks finally. Due to the pandemic and the slowdown of equipment and parts for those trucks, we also turn around and with it $129,507 over a period of 5 years for those 4 trucks, plus we had the trade-ins for them. And then with the pandemic, we had a $5,654 increase over the estimated price, but we do have the budget to cover that with that increase to hopefully turn around and get approved for our 4 new trucks. And that's with Sanders. No plows. The plows that we had got, we had updated all of our plows recently, so we don't need the plows, but we did get new Sanders with them.
Okay. Questions?
No questions. Thanks.
Anyone else wishing to comment on 319? Seeing none. I'm thinking about regular. I mean, I could go either way. What are your thoughts?
Regular sign, sure. Thank you.
Okay, regular then for 319. I'm sorry, that is what you said, correct?
Sure, me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 319 would be on regular for next time. That would bring us to 2022-327.
Resolution 2022-327 is consideration of an agreement for professional engineering services with Burns & McDonnell at the airport, and Deputy County Administrator Walters is here to discuss that project.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Commission. Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator for Clay County. As you know, past history of 1997, when we acquired the south property of the airport, there was some testing done on that property because it was a filling station back in the day. We acquired it after it became a restaurant because people were sitting there hours at a time, and it was in the flight path of the airplanes when they were landing on the runway from the south side. So they did some testing, and then somebody something happened to it, it died. Nobody did anything with it. I came back here in 2021. They turned around and said, hey, we need to do something with this property. So we did some 5 borings to do some ground testing of lead, terline, atrazine, things that turn around and come into leaded gas. They did some sampling. MDNR has a say-so of, hey, we can, let this go. We're clean of it, but we still have benzene and stuff that they turn around and want to now add some more testing to it for another $89,000. That instead of going 25 feet, they want to go 15 feet with 5 test holes, and then they want to add another 5 test holes just for soil testing, but then they'll compact them back. And this is over a period of time. This is not one chunk payout. This is as they do the project over a year or a period of time to do the testing, to turn around, see if we could get this property closed, that we don't have to do any more of this testing on this property, then it's pretty much dead in the water, and also working with legal to also get it added to the title of that piece of property that we have, that we don't plan on building a structure on that as well to help that turn around and clear this thing up.
Commissioner?
No questions, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to comment on 327? Seeing none, I think I'd kind of like to have this on regular.
I agree, yeah.
Very good.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. So 327 will appear on regular. That brings us to 2022-313.
Resolution 2022-313 is consideration of the appointment of Marcy Stafford to the Development Disability Resources Board. This is brought as a recommendation by Presiding Commissioner Nolte. Unfortunately, Ms. Stafford could not be in attendance this afternoon. She did have a conflict.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Stafford was recommended to myself not only by the chair of that particular body, but also the treasurer. When I had my conversation with them, one of the things that I like to do is to make sure that we are filling the talent requirements so that they have a good broad base of talent to draw upon, especially on a board like the Developmental Disabilities. So she seemed very good to be in that spot. There are a certain number of members there that are required to have a different kind of background, whether you are related to somebody who has a disability or whether you have a medical background. Those requirements seem to be all fulfilled by the existing board, so we have the ability to bring someone on without that particular consideration involved. So she seemed like a good applicant. She came recommended by members of the board. It may well be that they are all pretty much in favor of this. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. No, I don't have any questions. Obviously, DDRB, controls a lot of money and helps a lot of people, so it's an important board. But sounds like a thoughtful process, and I think generally we've done this as regular before, and if we wanted to do that again, especially to give Commissioner Thompson the opportunity to weigh in, but I'm comfortable.
We are, no, you're absolutely right, and I can't contemplate a circumstance right now to where I would nominate someone to a board where I would not want it to go on regular, because you're right, there's a lot of responsibility in these boards, and certainly the Disabilities Resource Board is one of the ones that has certainly a very serious subject matter, and they deal with a considerable amount of money. So yes, I would certainly prefer that 313 go on for regular at our next meeting. That brings us to 2022 Ordinance 27. Administrator.
2022 Ordinance 27 is the process of setting tax levies for 2022 and in the amount of 0.0284 for the general fund and 0.0697 for the county road and bridge fund. And County Auditor Herbert is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Yes, Victor Herbert, Clay County Auditor's Administrator, said by statute, charter counties have to set their tax levies every year by October 1st. And what is before you with 2022 Ordinance 27 is essentially the State Auditor Office's pro forma calculation based on our recently released assessed valuation from the Assessor's Office. And what that results in, as is in your packet, is the County General Fund levy has to have a sales tax rollback because of that ballot language for our half-cent general sales tax. And so the ceiling on that levy is 0.0284. And the ceiling for the County Road and Bridge Fund is unchanged because there is no rollback required in an even year. It's not a reassessment year, and so that's generally the reason why. And so it stays the same at, the ceiling stays the same at 0.0697. As you can see in the packet, the assessed valuation is essentially $5.7 billion as of 2022. And the only other thing I think I should mention is that we will need to have a public hearing by statute and we would like to have that on the 28th next week in the evening meeting for the public. If they want to make comment, you have to have it at least, you have to notice your public hearing at least 7 days before, and we published the notice last week, so we met the time frame there in advance to allow citizens, anyone interested, to make comment on it. So that's essentially what that is. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Thanks. No questions. No. Thanks.
Obviously, we've got, required rollbacks as as a condition to these levies. I don't want to get into too much detail right now because I would like to have the full commission to have the opportunity to discuss it. I am certainly considering asking for an additional reduction in the general county tax to where it would be 0.025. My understanding is, while that is a modest reduction, it would, generally speaking, not. It would be consistent with what is the current budget proposal, so it would not require any cuts from the current or from the proposed budget. Is that correct, Mr. Auditor?
Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. That's something to bring up as well. It's within the notice to the public there, outlines essentially what that revenue generates at the ceiling level of roughly $1.6 million. The budget team did preliminarily, before the assessed valuation was released, put in a figure where we thought it would land, and based on that, we had penciled in 0.25 and $1.4 million. And that's essentially what 0.25, as you mentioned, as a proposal would generate. It is $200,000 less than what the ceiling would generate of roughly $1,634,214. But it is worth mentioning that the current ceiling of 0.0338 generated over $1.8 million. It's just, again, the whole purpose of the sales tax provision of the sales tax rollback basically required us to phase it out over time. But to your point, yes, the budget team at present had factored in a 0.025.
Very well. With that, like I say, I don't want to get too much into the discussion of it because I want to make sure that Commissioner Thompson is able to fully participate. And also, I would like to be able to consult a little bit more closely with staff before I actually make that proposal. But I did want to make sure that that everyone was aware that that was certainly something that I was considering. I had thought in terms of a larger tax cut, but I think we need to make sure that we are operating as responsibly as possible. And to me, this seems like a reasonable way to give some level of tax relief to our citizens without as big an impact as it might have otherwise been to our tax revenues. Commissioner Carpenter?
No, thanks. I look forward to, like you said, probably better to have that full discussion next week's commission meeting, and look forward to the discussion. So.
Right. I do think everybody needs to have the opportunity to look at those numbers, which is why I bring it up now, so that those numbers can be contemplated, and you can cast as an informed vote as you can possibly do. Are there any further comments on Ordinance 27? Very well, seeing none. That obviously goes on regular agenda. That brings us to 2022 Ordinance 28. Administrator?
2022-Ordinance 28 is considering setting the outside agencies tax levies for 2022. The mental health assessment levy, mill levy, would be 0.0857. The DDRB would be 0.1028, and senior services would be 0.0427. And County Auditor Herbert is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor, and it's 2022 Ordinance 28 for our three essentially component unit outside agencies who you just appointed one of the commissioners for one of those agencies with the DDRB. Those three levies, mental health 0.0857, DDRB 0.1028, and senior services 0.0427, essentially reflects no change from this year's current levies. There's no rollback required from those, and as you can see from the notice, based on new construction and other growth, even in a non-reassessment year, will generate a little bit more revenue, but not enough to require a rollback.
Questions?
No questions, thank you.
Very well. Is there anyone else wishing to comment on Ordinance 28? Seeing none, Ordinance 28 will, of course, appear on regular for our next meeting. That brings us to 2022-324. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-324 is consideration of the proposed employee benefit plans for 2023 with Blue Cross Blue Shield and Delta Dental. Human Resource Manager Kim Callahan is here to walk through the plan proposal.
Thank you. Lucy?
Hey, good afternoon, Kim Callahan, Clay County Human Resources Manager. This is HR's favorite time of the year, working on the new health plans, and then, of course, there's open enrollment. So I'm going to go over the presentation, and then you can ask questions. We're lucky this year we got to work with our new brokers, CBiz, and I do have two representatives here, Dave Johnson and Matt Cruel, at the end. If you have any questions, they'd be glad to answer those, and I would also. So let's start here. Okay, first I'll go over the voluntary programs that we have this year. We have vision with IMED. There's no increase. We have a rate guarantee until 2025. Then our voluntary life, with MetLife, we have no changes. We have a rate guarantee until 2024. Our long-term disability was renewed with no increase, and we have a guaranteed rate until 25. Delta Dental, we had a 2% increase this year. There's not been an increase with Delta since 2019, and I will show you what that looks like. Okay, so as you'll see on the left, the change, that's a monthly change to an employee only. It'll be a 70-cent increase for the employee. So if you look at the rates, the employee only, it goes from $35.22 to $35.92. Okay, and a family, it would go from $111.70 to $113.93, and that's with Delta Dental. Okay. And now I'm going to present the Blue Cross plans we have. We have Spiracare, Preferred Care Blue. We have our EPO plan. And the changes that we're proposing are, right now we have retirees that stay on the plan once they're 65, and it's actually an industry standard that they go on their Medicare or what other marketplace plan they have in place. And right now, we're proposing to change that, and it would only impact one employee right now. And we work with CBiz, and they're glad to work with this employee to help them. The second increase would be the Spiracare HSA deductibles. It's an IRS mandated increase on the deductibles, and I'll show you those on the next slide. And then we have a premium RX formulary implementation, which I'll show you on the next slide also. Okay, so this shows you the increases on the Spiracare. For individual, this is for the deductible. It goes to $3,000 and the family is $6,000. Okay, and this will show you on the right-hand side, this is the impact of the RX plan that we're talking about. At 91%, there would be no change. Okay, and right now we're looking at 4.4% would be a positive change. Okay, a 7%, we're looking at a negative change, which would be, meaning by negative, it would put their drug in a higher tier, so it would end up costing them a little bit more. And then the last but not least is 4% would be affected, and that would be what they call excluded, which would be an alternative drug, or maybe it's a drug that's put on your tongue and you would have to take a pill instead. But that's the impact of that plan. Let's Let's see. Okay, and next we have the financial impact. And we're proposing funding 7.5 in premiums. And this would be what the county and the employee would cover. And that's a gap of $400,000, which would be utilized in the fund balance if needed. Okay. Let's see. This is the proposed rates. These rates increase generate the 7.5 total revenue that will cover what we need. And what we're looking at in the change column in the green to the right, okay, you can see on the Spiracare, there's a $30.75 increase per month on employee only, okay? So we're looking at the lowest being $28.41 for the employee only on the Preferred Care HSA, and the highest being about $75, $73. You're looking at $76.84 for the family on Preferred Care HSA. And so this is the range of the change. And you can see the contribution percentage over to the right that we're proposing for 23. Okay, the financial impact. Last year, we talked about moving towards a higher cost share for the employee. And this is showing right now with the employee, it's going from 5% to 8%. That's the increase that we're moving up. The employer goes from 92% to 89%. And so that's what we're looking at, is moving the cost share from the 5 to 8%. Let's see. Okay, financial impact. So last year we had last year, 22, we have an estimated ending balance of $2 million. Okay, if you move that over into the beginning fund balance in the beginning January 2023, we have their estimated revenues with the money that we're proposing at 7.5, okay? The maximum claims that we could have or that we budgeted for is 6%, and that would our ending cash balance would be 1.5. Now, CBIZ recommends that we have 500 to 800,000, okay? And our auditor recommends we have approximately at least $1 million. So this more than covers what we would need. And this is in the worst case scenario if all the claims came in. And it could possibly not be that high. So that would be the worst case scenario. Let's see. So I know that's a lot of information and a lot of pages, and I'm here to answer any questions, and I might ask Diana to help me if we get too technical, and of course I said CBIZ is here also, so.
Questions or comments?
If we were to maintain status quo and not make any of these changes, I am curious the dollar amount difference. I don't know if anybody has that figure versus what the savings would be by implementing these changes in terms of at the county level.
Right. So the primary change in plan design that has an impact on the forecast of financial on the plan would be the implementation of the prescription drug formulary plan. That's estimated to save the plan approximately $280,000. So without that change, then we would have to raise premiums for both employee and potentially the county. And Kim did a great job, but one clarification I want to make is on the pie chart where it talked about 91% of prescriptions are not impacted. She said 7% are negative. That is not 7%, it's 0.7%.
Yeah.
So it's less than 1%. In essence, they still have coverage. It would just be possibly putting them into a higher tier of a deductible or copay in two of our plans, the preferred plan or the EPO plan. And then, as she mentioned, the 4% is there are alternatives. Just means that you might have to go from having a prescription that's in a liquid format into a format that would be a pill.
Thank you. So 280,000 through the prescription changes.
Right, by making that change and going to the premium formulary plan, we save about, estimated to be $280,000. With the scripts, they've gone through the analysis of the current prescriptions and applied that and what that would look like, and that would save the plan about $280,000.
Very good. And then achieving savings through premium changes as well?
Sorry, what?
Any additional outside of the prescription realm in terms of achieving savings?
No, because really, the other plan change, it will, you're exactly right, raising the deductible or the out-of-pocket for the high deductible plan of going from $2,800 to $300. That's an increase of $200 that the plan will not be picking up first coverage. So I don't know that I have that number projected out by CBIZ on how much that also contributes to saving costs for the plan.
Okay, thank you.
We can get that.
Thank you.
Something that, in my experience, that's obviously, not obviously, but I am on the plan. I had one prescription that was a fairly high dollar when at the beginning of the year, I had not achieved my deductible yet at that point. But I talked with my pharmacist and it went down considerably. I was wondering if there is any way that we can help, and whether it's through this or another program, of course, we're talking about, which is to help the employees to manage their money if they would like some help in having some advice. And that was, is there some way that we can, and I'm not sure this is possible, so I'm just throwing it out there. I just happened to stumble onto this, but is there some way that we can put something together to where employees have the ability, or maybe even just instruct them on the right questions to ask their pharmacy, because it is certainly possible that if just by asking a question and just by registering, they may well be able to save not only themselves but the county both some pretty considerable money. So I guess that's one of the things I'm thinking about is how do we make it a win-win?
Yeah, and I think that's something we could, when we do open enrollment, certainly talk about with our employees. And that's something we can work with CBIZ. They're great with implementing something like that. So I think it'd be great that we'll definitely look into that. Yeah, I just have to ask, was it the Good RX that you used or something like that?
No, it was
Okay.
it was by the pharmaceutical corporation who
Okay.
had the product, and I was eligible apparently. I didn't really ask. I didn't look the gift horse in the mouth too closely. I filled out my form, and then now I'm in their books, and I get a considerable lesser amount of money. The other reason I bring that up is not just because of that, but because as we go through our lives, we tend to end up having, in my case, more prescriptions than we had previous years.
Yeah.
And what a given employee might have experienced in their health care might have changed to the point to where they need more prescriptions, and up until that point, because it wasn't an issue, they may not have been overly aware of the discounts that were available. So that's kind of why I bring that up also, is because, like I say, I mean, for me, this was something that I just, my comment was, holy moly, this is expensive.
Right,
And
right.
that precipitated the conversation. But it looks as though we have the ability to help kind of maybe guide our employees so that they can take advantage of some of those offers that they may not be aware of.
Right, and I'll definitely work with CBIZ and talk to our employees about that, and maybe send out an email blast after I work with them about that. Absolutely.
And I would like to commend our employees and dependents, because we do have a very high utilization of generic drugs. So between either our employees or their physicians, they are trying to make those smart choice decisions. But I agree with Kim and working with CBIZ and doing more communication. We've come to a point that individuals need to be smart consumers with their health care and asking those questions, what are the alternatives and what else can I do? And so I think during open enrollment and ongoing communication as part of our wellness program will also help share that information with employees.
I think you're right, because during open employment, sometimes you get a little inundated with information. So anything we can do to help our employees to manage their expenses Certainly, I think that's a good move for us and for the employees as well, obviously.
Absolutely.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, 2022-324 for regular.
Agreed, yeah.
That brings us to our final issue, and that is 2022-325. Administrator?
Resolution 2022, typo, -325 is consideration of an agreement for the 2023 Flexible Spending Account administration by TriStar. And Human Resources Manager Kim Callahan is here to talk about that program.
All right, good afternoon, Kim Callahan, Clay County Human Resources Manager. We're asking for approval for 2025-325. This is moving our flexible spending account administrator from Health Equity WageWorks to TriStar. This year, we worked with CBiz, who our benefits broker, to get quotes and bids from other providers for a new FSA dependent care administrator. And it was decided to go with TriStar, who already administers our COBRA program. We've worked with them for several years, and they're wonderful to work with, and their proposal was in line with what we currently have. So that is our proposal, is just to switch from Health Equity WageWorks to TriStar. And I can answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
No, no questions, thank you.
And Commissioners, if I may, I've been
Please.
working on this also. My request would be that it stay on regular. There are a couple slight, I think, contract changes we're trying to still work through with TriStar's counsel.
I think that's a good point. I think there are a number of reasons for it to stay on regular, and that would certainly be one of them. Another being that this is a subject that Commissioner Thompson has expressed some interest in. She has a great deal of compassion for our employees, as we all do, and I would want her to have the ability to comment and to question to the degree that she feels that she would like. So with that, regular? That brings us to the end of our regular agenda. Is there a motion on moving these items to next meeting time?
Yes, Commissioner, I move that we put the following items on next week, 6 p.m.'s regular agenda: 2022-314, 316, 317, 318, 323, 326, 319, 327, 313, ordinances 27 and 28, and 324 and 325.
Very well. Motion has been made to place the issues that we heard this evening on the regular agenda as listed by the Commissioner. The remaining agenda items will appear on consent. Discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
Now close.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Nolte?
Yes. That brings us to comment on non-agenda items. Is there any member of the public, any office holders, or any agencies that would care to comment on any items not appearing on this afternoon's agenda? Sometimes I wonder with an agenda as long as this, if there's anything left to talk about that's not on the agenda. Very well. Seeing none. Administrator, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
I just have one. Earlier this week, we received in the mail notification of a public hearing regarding a TIF for the City of Liberty, the Montage Tax Increment Financing and Redevelopment Project. That public hearing will be held Monday, September 26th at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at Liberty City Hall.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. That brings us to Commissioner comments. Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Carpenter, do you have any comments?
No comments, thanks.
I have no comments as well, except that I am looking forward to construction going forward in the behind the scenes here, behind the curtain. And I want to commend staff for doing a great job on making that go as quickly as possible. There are always a number of, whenever, I think anybody who's ever done any kind of remodeling or work on their home realizes There are any number of things that can go awry, and I just want to express my appreciation to staff and to the Deputy Administrator for doing such a great job on keeping this moving forward. Approval of the agenda. There is one item, the minutes for Wednesday, June 22, 2022, 3 p.m. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes for June 22.
Motion's been made for the approval of the minutes of June 22, 2022, 3 p.m. Discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close.
Close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Nolte?
Yes. Are there any written reports for the commission this evening?
No, sir, there's not.
There are no executive sessions listed. That brings us to recess adjournment. We are adjourned.